I usually buy a really disgusting looking frozen burger from a like one of those vending machines, and the burger, it looks bad, but I'll tell you, it's the most delicious thing you've ever had.
Nice to see you here. What's been your kind of angle here at the UK? You just arrived? Right?
Yeah, I just got here, and I have to say it's pretty amazing to meet all these community members that I've previously only met online as names. Like I got a big hug from Prophet on Fire, so it's pretty sweet.
You just came from the DICE LA offices? Or,
yes, so all of DICE LA met up at the office, and we got shuffled off in buses and arrived here.
For those who might not know, well, everyone at DICE and what they do, would you mind just kind of introducing yourself? Yeah, like, you know.
Sure. So my name is Jojje Dalunde. Some people probably know me online as Indigowd or Indigowd. That's the way they pronounce it here. I'm a producer for Battlefield Incursions, and that is, of course, the competitive take on Battlefield. I've been with DICE for about 8 years now, and in a producer role for like 2 years. And it's always been about competitive Battlefield for me, even before I was in the producer role.
Titles are hard, I think, sometimes for people to really understand, you know, what they mean. What are the implications for you day to day? Could you describe maybe like an average workday at?
An average workday. First of all, there is no such thing as an average workday, but most of the time I come to work at like 8:30 to 9. Check emails from Sweden, because that's the nice thing with 9-hour difference, that there's a ton of emails from Sweden, and I need to check that and reply to them before Sweden leaves for the day. So I spend about an hour and a half on emails, and then we have what we call stand-ups with the different groups in the team. So we have a world team stand-up, we have gameplay feature stand-up, and a bunch of other crafts. And what we do in a stand-up is we look at like what are we doing, what's the thing that we should be focusing on today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week. So that's just the morning.
Yeah.
So by now we should be at like maybe 11 a.m. That's usually when the next meeting happens. So my day is pretty much meetings.
A lot of meetings.
Fun meetings though. The hour between 12 and 1, I usually buy a really disgusting looking frozen burger from a like one of those vending machines, and the burger, it looks bad, but I'll tell you, it's the most delicious thing you've ever had. And people look at it like, no, I'm not buying that. So I think there's only like me and one more person buying the burgers, because we've discovered the secret that this is the stuff. I could talk all day about burgers, by the way. That's one of the good things about living in LA. And afternoons is usually also meetings, and Tuesdays and Thursdays we do like we have big blocks of playtests. So we do a 2-hour playtest with a sort of a core group that always gets together those hours, and we playtest things I can't talk about.
How is your time spent in terms of working with engineers and you know, people developing the game? Like how? Yeah.
Yeah, no, so my role is to make sure that we're all working towards the same goal, that we have a shared vision, and that sometimes has implications on design decisions that we need to make. And so what could happen is if we realize, like, okay, we need to design this feature, a designer will sit in a dark room and come up with a design. We'll then vet it with the rest of the core team members.
Right.
And then in that core group, you'll have an engineer or more engineers sometimes, where we sort of just look, what would this require from an engineering perspective?
Yeah.
When can we do it? What's the priority of doing this? So it's a lot about finding the priority of the stuff we're building.
So it's really part of your day-to-day, actually, to sit with engineers.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we have a. I don't want to call it an open landscape office, even though it is, but it doesn't feel that way. So we have a good time, and I sit next to our technical director for the project. He's from Italy, so I made a lot of fun of him when Sweden beat out Italy in the qualifiers for the World Cup. So good times.
So you work in competitive. Might be one of the tougher jobs right now at you guys to kind of figure that out in terms of like there's a lot of feedback and a lot of ideas on what competitive Battlefield should be, right?
Yes. So I think a big misconception in the community, and I'm not blaming the community, this is entirely our own fault, is that we haven't been able to communicate what Battlefield 1 Incursions is and what it was meant to do. We're still not really, or we still haven't communicated that in the way we should, but essentially, I'll give you the scoop. Yeah. So essentially what we set out to do with BF1 Incursions is to learn what is competitive Battlefield. And the sort of what we wanted to try was to take the experience of playing Battlefield, the sort of chaotic sandbox experience, and see if we could reproduce that in a 5 versus 5 setting. And I think we managed that pretty well. The thing is, that's not what competitive Battlefield needs to be. Is something we found through feedback. So we learned a ton of stuff that we wanted to learn using Battlefield 1 as sort of our testing grounds. And the reason that we need to learn all of this stuff is something I can't talk about. But we did get a lot of feedback like, oh, how can you even think about putting a flamethrower in a competitive game? Well, we want to test everything and take everything to its extremes to show that, yeah, this could work, or no, there's no way in hell this is going to work. So pretty much every feature is like that. We want to test it to see if it belongs or if it doesn't. And most of the stuff we've tested doesn't belong.
Sounds fair. How did the test go then? Did you get good data on what you think a good competitive experience? Yeah,
so we did get a lot of information, not just through or from gameplay aspects, but also like the data we got to collect from where the players are, what platform they're on, what times of the day they want to play. So that's one part. But of course, I think the big part that everyone that's watching this is interested in is probably how it affected gameplay decisions. And it's funny, like every morning I would go on Discord and or Reddit and have like 10, 20 messages saying, you need to nerf this kit, it's broken. And then I go and look at the data and see, no, this is the worst kit of them all. Like, so people have ideas that they think to be the truth, and looking at data, that is not always the case.
No, sure. The community sometimes doesn't really correlate with what the data is showing. I think that's fair and something that the community just needs to accept sometimes, for sure. Okay.
Yes, but I do want to add that a lot of the feedback that we got for in BF1 Incursions was like you need to fix the movement system, you need to fix the gunplay, remove suppression. We wanted to do all of that in Incursions for BF1, but there are priorities and reasons why we couldn't do it, because all this time that people have been playing Battlefield 1 Incursions, we've been looking at what's at the horizon, and we've deemed that that's where we want to spend or spend our effort. So a lot of the feedback we got from Incursions has actually been implemented in Battlefield 5 base game. Right. And I think the Battlefield 5 wouldn't have been, or wouldn't be as good as it is had it not been for Incursions.
Just to get to like real hardcore fundamentals here.
Okay.
What's your definition of competitive, and how does that definition? It's a two-part question here. How does that definition differ from your definition of eSports?
Oh. So I would say the definition of competitive is that everyone should be able to pick it up and play and have fun and compete no matter what their level of skill is. So even if I'm going to say a bad player, I'm still going to be able to have fun. Just like when I was a kid and I wasn't the greatest at soccer. I mean, I was good, but I wasn't the greatest. But I would just walk onto a field and play with the people that were playing at the time. And that's sort of what I see competitive being. Whereas when we look at eSports, it's taking everything to the extreme when it comes to level of skill and taking into account ways to abuse systems and features, weapons, and movement. Like we had the slide thing.
Like the meta game.
Yeah, and I think that if I had to place Battlefield 1 Incursions on sort of the scale between competitive and esports, it's not anywhere near esports.
Right. What are the mechanics that you think make a game a good competitive game? Because there's obviously non-competitive games, right?
Yes.
Games that are more casual in nature. What type of game mechanics do you think really kind of encourage competitive?
So without going into too much like depth on each feature, I think it can be distilled down to having a higher value on each life, so it doesn't become sort of this churn that we're seeing in Incursions right now, where people just run, die, respawn, run, die, and repeat. I think to be successful, the tempo needs to be a little bit slower than we currently have in Battlefield 1 Incursions, just because it makes it easier to for a spectator to figure out, okay, what is actually going on here. And right now we're not doing a great job at that in Incursions. So there's always room for improvement. So I would say value of life, tempo, and making sure that as a spectator you always know what you're looking for, and you have a you know what is about to happen, or you can sort of predict what will happen in the next few seconds.
If you spend enough time on the game, you can learn it and become really good at it. So a long, big skill gap, essentially, I would call it.
Removing chaos, adding predictability, removing random factors.
Right. You touched upon something interesting there about the viewer experience as well of a competitive game. If, like, in Jojje's dreams...
let's not go there.
In Jojje's dreams, what does a competitive kind of Battlefield broadcast look like in say 3 years at an arena? How does that feel? Do you have anything that you can add to that picture?
So I will not answer that, but I will say that my vision that I keep repeating to the team is that we have the best looking game, so we should have the best spectator, and we are working towards that. Yeah, I think that's all I can say at this point. But I see the spectator part of it being huge. So,
what role do you see, like third-party organizations and things like this? Well, stuff like BFNations and other organizations play in the kind of bringing forward of Battlefield?
I mean, it's the grassroots and where the true community is. So I think it's essential. And I know that we are working with some third-party organizations already, and I expect that to expand and increase in quality as well as quantity. So it's not really my area. So as you probably know, we have the competitive gaming division within EA that has their own branch for Battlefield, and they've got some pretty amazing plans. So I'm excited for it, and I wish I could spill the beans now, but I can't.
What about Incursions? Is there anything that you like to kind of communicate, I guess, to some of the players that have been playing Incursions and well, really helping or working with you guys on figuring out what a good competitive experience looks like?
Yeah, no. So honestly, I am humbled by the amount of feedback and the passion that we're seeing from players, and we don't always agree on everything, but that's also good. I mean, it's healthy to not always agree. And again, I wish we'd done a better job at communicating what it was that we set out to do in Battlefield 1 Incursions. At the end of the day, it has generated some really awesome stuff for the future, and I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised, even the haters that we have now.
You gotta love the haters.
Oh yeah.
Just finally, before we let you go, we know you're busy, we got some information 2 days ago, right, about a Royale mode being implemented into Battlefield 5. That's interesting. I guess you can't really talk about any exact plans here, but if you just play with us on this idea, what could that look like in terms of a competitive experience? Because you've seen games like Fortnite trying out, competitive arrangements, and PUBG, of course, tournaments being held. Anything you can like drop there? Some wisdom?
I can't really speak to it at all, to be honest, other than that we have looked at what the requirements are for a good spectator or broadcasting tool for a Royale mode. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the only thing I can say.
Spectator mode is at least getting an interesting overall, perhaps, where adding more broadcasting tools to it. And
yes. So what can I say? This is a thin line that I'm walking. But yeah, so obviously we do know that the spectator tool that we had in Battlefield 1 is it's great to create some really awesome cinematics and beautiful looking short videos. It is not a tool for eSports. So without me confirming anything or denying anything, I'm just going to leave that as a statement.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your time. This is really appreciated. We think it's really cool to do these conversations with people that dice on various topics. So.
Yeah, I had a blast. This is fun, and I'm so happy I got to spread the word about the refrigerator burger because it's so good.
That's the key takeaway from this interview.
They also have they got the cheddar cheeseburger, but they also got the sriracha chicken burger. So
I go for the chicken burger.
Yeah, I like to mix it up a bit. Yeah. No, but this was fun. Thank you for having me, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much. Tack så mycket.